we are back at it ahead of week 5. We're moving on finally. Shocker. Everybody knows it's time. Bye weeks are starting with Browns, Chargers, Seahawks, and Buccaneers. All your players on those teams are gone this week. Best of luck to you. Thankfully, that's not a whole lot of players. I mean, I guess it's a decent amount, but nobody that you're really. I mean, Eckler was already out. Don't have Williams anymore. Everybody seems to be getting beat up, so it'll be very interesting to see how that works out. But as always, I'm joined by Mike Burland. How's it going, Mike?
Yeah, good. Can't believe it's already week 5. Well, the end of week 4 and the first quarter of the season is done basically. And yeah, bye weeks. It's the separates the real teams from the pretenders. So if you started off slowly, just keep fighting. Bye weeks, you can get back into it. Hopefully, if you get the good waiver wire ad here and there. So that's what we're here to help you for.
For sure. And we got lucky because Justin Herbert hurt himself in the last game, so he's going to get to heal up, and Eckler should be back after the bye. Those are the big ones that I can think of. Parham also left early, but
Derwin and Bosa and
everybody's going to be healthy. That's what we're hoping for, right? Coming back, everybody's going to be healthy. We're going to actually figure things out.
Yeah,
maybe
we should just make this a Chargers show. Actually, I think.
Well, since they're on bye,
yeah,
you are clearly without Herbert, so we'll move into quarterbacks and see who you can use. I'm still going with CJ Stroud, 32% rostered. Currently the quarterback 10 on the year. Pretty impressive. Through 4 weeks. Granted, there are 2 going tonight. Not quite sure either of them are going to break ahead of him. They do have quite a bit of work to do. But every week, his first week was a little rough. Okay, got 10.68 fantasy points. But since then, 21.46, 20.6 in this past week, 21.84. And he's rushing. Like it's not a whole lot, but the additional 100 yards you're going to end up likely having with him, 150 yards that he's going to rush for on the season is going to be a pretty big boost. And it's been against tough teams. This past week, he just torched the Steelers for 306 yards and added 2 touchdowns. So if he's still available, he's outplaying a lot of people. Clearly at quarterback 10. I'm actually contemplating whether or not I'm going to just completely dump and drop Trevor Lawrence for him. Trevor seems to be off that wagon, and I'm struggling, but that's who I'm looking at. Who are you looking at, Mike?
Yeah, and just to finish up on Stroud, like he's doing it without his offensive lineman. I still think 3 of them are out. 3 of his starting offensive line. Like it doesn't really make sense what he's doing.
Incredible.
But, yeah, it really is. It's Justin Herbert, Cam Newton, rookie year type of stuff. So I would all in on Stroud for sure. A couple other ones. Another guy that's maybe out there in your leagues, Matthew Stafford. He's I think he's rostered in about a third of leagues. So he's had 3 300-yard games this year. Has the most dropbacks in the NFL. He is only QB 18 on the year, but he only has 3 touchdowns. It's kind of a weird. Like he's throwing a lot, he's getting a lot of yards. Kyron Williams is getting all the touchdowns on the ground. So you expect that to kind of correct itself eventually. Cooper Kupp may be back. I don't know if he's back this week, but hopefully soonish he's back. And just looking at the list, I mean, Herbert, Geno Smith, and Deshaun Watson could be 3 starters for people in their fantasy drafts or in their fantasy teams. And they're all out on bye this week. So Matthew Stafford, I think he's kind of a safe play behind Stroud. And then maybe a little bit more risky. I mentioned him last week. Josh Dobbs, man, like this guy, he's fun to watch.
I don't get it, man. The end his picture creeps me out. I hate the pictures that they use for him. It's very terrifying. If you haven't looked it up, make sure you take some time to look up Josh Dobbs. Anywhere you can.
Yeah, for sure. But he's rushing the ball. He's running the ball. He averages 48 yards rushing per game since week 2. Week 2, he had a total dud, 1 point that week. But since week 2, he's been the QB 6. So he's going to give you 4 or 5 points on the ground, maybe a rushing touchdown. If he can throw a couple 100 yards and even just throw a touchdown, like you're looking at 18 points or so. So this team's going to be down a lot. They're going to be in these shootouts. They're going to be making comebacks. And obviously it's working, so they're doing something right. They're much better than we all expected. And so, yeah, he's like a super deeper League One, but yeah, he's it's that rushing floor. That rushing floor does wonders for fantasy.
I got one.
All right.
So this is if you're streaming QBs weekly. I would actually be interested if he becomes available, especially because of the bye, in picking up and stashing Baker Mayfield for the long run.
Yeah, he's been very impressive. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's on the bye this week, so there's a chance that either he gets dropped or nobody wants to pick him up or whatever it is. But coming out of the bye, he gets Detroit and Atlanta. You don't love Buffalo, but then you've got Houston, Tennessee, Indy, Carolina, Atlanta again. Like, it's a very favorable schedule down the stretch. So if you're streaming quarterback and he's available and you've got the roster space, I would love to pick him up this week during his bye.
Yeah, that's a good call. I think he's like QB 13, 14 on the year, so he's doing it. I thought we were going to get like they lost to the Eagles. It was a nice 2 weeks, Bucks and Baker Mayfield. Now they came back and against a pretty good Saints defense, looked good. So yeah, I like that call.
Well, there's a couple of other names I'm going to throw out. Sam Howell gets the Bears, who just made Russell Wilson look really good. So as an option, I don't really love it, but he has shown sparks of being solid. And then more shocking, after watching him play last night, Zach Wilson, also widely available, plays the Broncos. So talk about some really good options there. If Zach Wilson can do what he did last night and just light up the Broncos, another widely available players for you that if you need to stream based on those guys being out, those are some options for you. But
yeah, a lot of good options.
So wrap up quarterback. We'll move into running backs. Guy Al going to keep beating the drum for. Zach Charbonnet still available, 40.7%. I think tonight, if you can get him now, you have to do it as quick as you can. Drop whatever is you have that's junk and pick him up, stash him ahead because he's been getting that switch turned. He's been extremely aggressive in his runs. He still isn't seeing the end zone yet, but his workload's increasing each week. He's added receptions into that, and it's just the fact that he's an absolute monster. Just seeing him run over people, I would expect him to see a good amount of work tonight, especially if this is a blowout. They might really want to just let him loose. So that's who I'm looking at. Who are you looking at, Mike?
Yeah, I like that call. And just, there's a few high-end handcuffs out there. Tajay Spears, we've mentioned quite a few times.
Over and over. Still like him.
Yeah, still like him. And just, again, like, look at what we saw with like a Jerome Ford. If Henry goes down, people are going to be spending all their fab. He's going to be the number one priority. He's looked good in the very small sample size we have seen of him. He's going to need a Henry injury. That's just the fact. They're not going to go away from Derrick Henry, but could happen. You never know. So that him and Roshan kind of like a handcuff. I don't know. This was a nicer before this week, before Khalil Herbert went off this week. It was kind of a juicier guy to hold on to, thinking he could take over. So Khalil Herbert had a good game. He looked good. So it's kind of tougher, but I still think Roshan's a good player that maybe could, be productive at least for a few weeks if maybe something happens to Herbert. So some high-end handcuffs there. Chuba Hubbard's another one. There's not a whole lot of guys like if you need spot starts this week. But Chuba Hubbard's another kind of handcuff there. That Miles Sanders has this groin injury that's lingering since he missed most of training camp. He was kind of, I think, had like 50% of the snaps in week 1. Then he seemed to get better, and then he kind of re-injured it going into this week. And Chuba Hubbard played a lot. Not super exciting, but again, if this injury keeps lingering for Miles Sanders, then Chuba Hubbard could be worth at least something during bye weeks. And then Jaleel McLaughlin, maybe if you do need a spot start. If Javonte sounds like it's not a serious injury, maybe he could miss a week. We don't know yet. But Jaleel McLaughlin, he's an undrafted rookie. He looked really good against the Bears. So you got to temper expectations a little bit. But when he was in there, he just looked so much better than Samaje Perine. And even before the Javonte injury, it would seem like they were trying to get McLaughlin a little bit more involved and less of Samaje Perine. So I think if Javonte's out, they could just kind of let him loose. So he could be a nice spot starter this week. Yeah, not too sexy on the waiver wire for running backs, I'd say.
Yeah, I like McLaughlin though. I think there's a lot of talent there. If he does end up getting more of that work, but he just, I think I saw that all of his carries, he like wasn't touched. Like he completely evaded tackles when he was. Yeah. So that's a pretty impressive. If you get 7 carries and are just able to really just put in some damage like that until you're taken down, but that's just crazy. So, yeah, man, that and you kind of touched on it, but do you trust any Ravens running back?
Yeah. Man,
is there something you're looking at? I never can do this. I hate bringing it up because the Ravens are just not a team outside of J.K. Dobbins when they actually go to him that I want a running back to be a part of. So,
no, I generally agree with you. It's even like with J.K. Dobbins last year, this year, I was kind of like, when is the Ravens running back? It was like Mark Ingram in 2019, but he caught like 5 touchdown passes, which was like out of like 10 catches or something. So it was like a crazy anomaly, but yeah, it's tough. I mean, it was interesting to see Gus Edwards get 15 carries last week, but the guy hasn't caught a ball since like 2020, I think, unless he caught one last week, but I don't think he did. Yeah, it's just I put him on there because, again, like they probably need to be rostered because they're gonna do something, but
and with bye weeks coming up, I mean that's kind of what you're looking at. You want to give as many options as we can here because the apocalypse is coming and it's always scary.
Yeah, and if they do decide to give one a bulk of the carries, there's going to be some value there. So my worry is, are they going to do it? You know, are they ever going to just like hand it over to one of the guys? So yeah, I mean, if they're out there and you have a spot, I would throw either Justice Hill and Gus Edwards, and then keep an eye on Keaton Mitchell. He was on the IR, rookie. He was on the IR. Yeah, he's coming out off the IR this week, I believe, or he just got off of it. So, you know, always intrigued with the rookies. Like I kind of liked him a little bit out of college. He's intriguing at least. So keep an eye on that name as well.
Gonzalez asked about what about Ronnie Rivers, who's the backup running back in LA, the Rams. Sorry, I was trying to think behind Kyron Williams. So I don't. It's fine. I mean, he's been seeing some work, but not enough to really like want to be something that you're looking at except outside of, I mean, you never know. I guess Williams could get hurt and he could have a lot of value. It's just tough to trust in that.
Yeah. I mean, you see Williams's usage and that always obviously the more you touch the ball, the more likely you are to get injured. Right. So you see 25 carries and 3 catches and, 100% of the snaps in a week and 95%, like a lot of opportunity to get injured. I just don't know if like it will be Ronnie Rivers or Zach Evans is on that team as well. Who's a rookie. So like, I guess it would be Ronnie Rivers from what we're seeing, but it could just be like, oh, here's Zach Evans and we didn't expect it. So I just don't know if he's like a true handcuff. He could be. He definitely could be. So
yeah, I mean, he did see quite a bit of touches. He's this past week he saw 9 touches, got 47 yards with them. And also saw 2 targets, added 10 yards there. So not crazy, but not. I mean, I'd much rather prefer the guys that we're talking about above him at this point. Yeah. Just because I think they're more based on the teams that they're on and how they're actually going to be used. So more potential upside.
Yep.
All right. Wrap up running back and moving to wide receiver. And he's going on bye. But Josh Palmer, again, it stepped up. He's clearly the guy. I mean, they got ahead quick enough that they pretty much sat Keenan Allen after his first quarter and didn't have to worry about it again. But he continued to see the touches, and it's just gone up every week. So Quentin Johnson got a lot usage, but again, the name I keep bringing up is Darius Davis also. saw some touches and had a really big run that was really impressive. But it's it'll be interesting to see how they end up using everybody with Eckler potentially being back. I'm going to be very curious to see how that all ends up mixing up. So
yeah, and this team's gonna have their passing numbers were very down this last week. They got out to a big lead, and so I think Herbert threw for like 170 yards. Like that's maybe never going to happen. Not going to happen again this season. That could be a season low easily. So they're going to throw a lot, and Palmer's out there. Just looked 86% of the snaps. So it's almost impossible in an offense that's going to pass that much to not do something, if you're out there that much. So yeah, he definitely needs to be on rosters as well. So even through the bye week, 100%. But yeah, another guy we've mentioned a lot, Romeo Doubs. Like he, I guess, was dropped a lot maybe after his week 3 performance, and then he came back and looked good in week 4. And this was like the first.
Well, I think there were also people being nervous about Watson coming back too, and so they're like,
yep.
"Oh, we'll just got to get him instead or whatever."
Mm-hmm. And that could still be an issue, like because Watson didn't really play that much. They were, I know he caught the touchdown, but they were obviously less than 50% of the snaps, and so it still could be a thing. Like, yeah, Christian Watson still could be the main guy, but I really like Romeo Doubs. I think again, I kind of thought this before even the Watson injury of like he could be the number 1 receiver, most targeted receiver at least on this team. Like, and I think there's a place for both of them. So. He needs to be rostered, especially after what he did in week 4. Jameson Williams coming back from the suspension 2 weeks earlier than we thought. It's nice to see, former first round pick, maybe would have been the first receiver in that draft had he not torn his ACL in the college national championship game. So I think he can just be, you guys know how much I love like Josh Reynolds. I think he can just be a better version of Josh Reynolds, just a little more talented and a little more explosive. And this offense, they still need a number. I know Laporta is kind of like their number 2 guy now, but they could still use other options in the passing game on this team. So I would
only
pick
they had a running back that they could pass to,
right? Only they took one at 12th or 10th overall or whatever it was. Yeah, that's
the anomaly is so frustrating. But
yeah, although I have. Like David Montgomery, I'm like 90% of my team, so I'm kind of
exactly. I mean, I understand because I also have David Montgomery, but it's just like you drafted this guy and you're still using him like you were using Swift last year.
I know,
and he's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's like why did you draft him, right? Like
especially at that cost. I mean, you could have waited.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then Jameson Williams, definitely think he should be rostered. Just too talented not to be him. I'm not super surprised his percentage is that low. I guess people don't want to.
He really hasn't done a whole lot. There's not a whole
lot
of stats on him. And even when he has played, it's been so limited that it's. So I understand why he's so low, but there is potential upside here, so it's worthy. If you need somebody, you're looking for a whole home run swing, there is a potential with Jameson Williams to really have that for you.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Michael Wilson, another rookie. Like this is the theme here. He's played 70% of the snaps last week. We talked about Arizona. Like they're producing multiple fantasy options on this team. And yeah, he had his best game, 7 targets, 76 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's already a top 30 receiver on the year. He has an interesting profile. He just couldn't stay healthy in college, and Stanford just kind of terrible. Their offense was just kind of terrible while he was there in college. So yeah, he's interesting. Like again, rookie receiver. Will his role expand? Will he get better as it goes along? And then Marvin Mims is another guy. Like I just don't understand why they're not getting him more involved.
Still can't breed out Brandon, man. I don't get it.
They were basically tied.
Yeah, this week they got close.
They were basically, I think, both at like 35% of the snaps.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was like Brandon had 50 or 6, Brandon Johnson had like 50 or 60%. So I'm hoping Mims kind of takes that role over as like on the field at least 50 or 60% of the time. He just makes plays. He had another like 50-yard catch in this game. He's wide receiver 37 on the year, which isn't saying much, but that's when he's played on average the first 4 weeks 27.5% of the snaps. Like he's hardly played anything. Like, and he's producing. I'm sure his per touch is crazy. His per touch numbers. So if they get him to 50-60%, like he could really take over and just be very explosive for this team. So I like the idea of still holding on to him. See what happens. Does he get even more snaps this week? I hope he does. So rookies, their roles expand as the season goes along. So that's the theme of this show is the rookies.
Yeah. Well, and I like Mike Wilson. I mean, it's probably, I don't know if there's been a comparison, but he really reminds me of Josh Palmer. Like the way he kind of plays, the way he moves, he has that ability to kind of take it to the house, but he's also not super quick. He's just finding space and really sitting in it and being that safe play for Dobbs. So other name that I'm going to bring up just because I think that team's always going to be losing. Curtis Samuel, 12.6% rostered.
Yes.
They keep using him in the rushing game. They keep giving him opportunities. So really like that. And then of course, Rashee Rice has again continued to lead the Chiefs in targets at the wide receiver position. So they actually ever need to really use him. It'll be interesting to see how that works out.
Yeah, I like both those. I mentioned Curtis Samuel way back when we talked about the 32 and 32 Commanders. He
continues to have life, man. I don't understand how it works. I feel like
and again, they use him in the run game, like you said. He's going to get a couple carries a game. Jahan Dotson had an injury, right? And I don't know how serious it is. I think he went out with an injury.
He came back in, but it was
okay.
It's something that's probably going to irritate him, but I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah. So definitely. And then Rashee Rice is a good call actually because it seems like if I had to bet on one of these receivers now, kind of breaking out, like it feels like it could be Rashee Rice. Like, and by breaking out, I mean like, can he refill like the Juju Smith-Schuster role? And it just seems this Kansas City offense, like something's a little off, right? It just doesn't seem like it's clicking. And I think guys like, I know it's funny now, but like guys like Juju and Mecole Hardman, I think played an important role on this team where we didn't realize maybe as much as we realized, because for fantasy, I mean, Juju was fine, but like Mecole Hardman, not so much. And so like, I think we're seeing the absence of those guys kind of affecting this whole offense. And can it be Rashee Rice that kind of steps up into that Juju role, that possession receiver? They need someone to do something, like it can't just be Pacheco running for getting 150 total yards and all that. So I like that Rashee Rice call.
Part of the reason I'm bringing it up is because while I don't like watching the Chiefs, I have to because I do live in Kansas. It's like a requirement here. So with that in mind, it's the fact that this team is really young when it comes to looking at the wide receivers. The oldest one is going to be Marcus Valdes-Scantling. Like the guys that they're starting, it's him, Tony, and Rice, and all of them are
more,
I mean, they're just young, and so not having that rapport quite built up. I mean, MVS is the closest, as you saw him see a handful of targets, but still, if they actually decide to let Rice be out, I don't know, 50% of snaps, that'd be a nice start. just let some of these guys actually stay out there and see what they can do, even if you're just rotating until you find something that works with Mahomes. Like, it's so frustrating to watch them struggle because you're only out there for 26%, 27% of the plays, or
and just how they're using like Sky Moore. It's like he literally runs like 3 yards and turns these little like hitch routes. It's like, I don't know. I really do like the Rashee Rice. If you want to take a chance on a Chiefs receiver and they're all out there on the waiver wire, I think I would go with Rice.
Yeah. So, all right, we'll get off of wide receiver, not worry about it anymore. We'll move into the position that is causing everybody, I think, the most frustrations, because surprisingly tight ends are moving up. They're consistently getting closer to that 10 fantasy point mark. And so that's getting exciting. It's very early, but the fact that you're seeing a lot of people that are floating around right there is super impressive. But bring him up again. Continues to happen. Jake Ferguson, 24.5% rostered, continues to see targets this week. Caught all 7 of them. 77 yards. Still no touchdown this week, but he has the one in week 2. It's just been such a long time. The fact that he isn't scoring yet is amazing. Absolutely love this though. The 7 for 77, 14.7 fantasy points is pretty awesome. And he actually wasn't out there for the fourth quarter and some of the third because they were winning. So they got Schoonmaker in and is it Wiley?
Hendershot?
Oh yeah, Hendershot is the other one.
Yeah.
It's like, but I went to the Colts because they have a whole slew of them that are right there too. But still like him the most. And then another name I'm going to throw out because it's been driving crazy. Jonnu Smith is so annoying.
So annoying.
I hate this, Falcons. Stop giving it to Jonnu Smith. You have this awesome wide receiver playing a tight end called Kyle Pitts, and you aren't giving him the ball, but you are giving Jonnu Smith all these opportunities. It's driving me insane.
It is so frustrating, man. Like I was gonna write him, and I was like, I don't want to though. I want it to be Pitts or Drake London or, geez, like what are we doing? But I like the Ferguson call. Like this team is going to be in closer games where they're not just blowing the other team out like they have like 3 of the 4 times where it just feels like they're gonna have to do a little more. And Dak, as frustrating as it is, like you want to see CeeDee Lamb consistently get like double-digit targets. They just refuse to like feature him. I don't know why. It's good for Ferguson. He's going to get 6-7 targets every game. So he's already a top 10 tight end. So and so is Jonnu Smith. He's tight end 11. Amazingly crazy. Annoying,
isn't it?
It is.
I hate it so much. Why do they do this? I don't understand.
Yeah, I hate it. So. A guy that I was a little surprised, I've kind of looked at this earlier in the week, was Noah Fant. Has had he's played in 2 games. He missed week 1, I think. He has had 2 good weeks back to back. He's top 10 in PPR points per game at 9.6, 8.1 in the 2 weeks he's played. He's on a good offense. He's always been a talented tight end. That's why he was drafted as high as he was. And he even had it. It's not like he's been a total bust. He's had a couple good seasons in him. Not so much last year. So he's talented. He's on a good offense. I think he can be just a solid PPR floor tight end, which is kind of crazy because I would never have thought it. So we'll see tonight what he does. But if he has another good 9-10 points, I think he definitely deserves to be picked up and streamed over Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, because that's extremely frustrating.
Yeah.
Okay. Off of the thing nobody cares about to something else nobody cares. Yeah. Something else that nobody cares about. Defenses. So it's happened. The Lions have been completely wasted, but they're 4.7% rostered. They are an actual decent defense. I get it. It didn't look great versus Seattle, but they've put up 8 fantasy points in the Chiefs, -1 versus Seattle, 16 versus Atlanta, 11 versus Green Bay. And this week they get the Panthers, who have given up 14 fantasy points to the Falcons, 9 fantasy points to the Saints, 2 fantasy points to Seattle, and 18 fantasy points to the Vikings defense. The Vikings defense, I'm saying it again because that's not an actual defense. They're just there. They're functioning as bodies on the field and hoping that you don't actually try and compete with them. But pick up the Lions. This is a great streamer for you. It's delicious, and I think there's a lot of opportunities here. So
no, like that for sure. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of good
options
streaming
this
week.
week.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully you have someone that you can use that you've picked up over, listening to the last couple of our shows, like the Chiefs or something, who didn't look necessarily that great against the Jets. But anyways, the Saints, yeah, I know, right? The Saints, I don't know what they are on ESPN necessarily, but I thought I saw somewhere that they're at 38 or 40% rostered. So they're just a good defense, a good solid defense. I know they didn't necessarily show it last week, but they play the Patriots in week 5, and that offense is just terrible. So they can easily just shut down that offense and give you a nice 8-9 points. So look out for them. Then the Dolphins, again, like not the best defense, but my logic here is I think they could kind of light up the Giants, kind of like what they did to the Broncos. And that's who they play in week 5, the Giants. They could kind of just, it could be a track meet for them, put up a bunch of points, and then the Giants are going to have to throw the ball. That equals sacks, interceptions. So just kind of putting that logic there, in that 70-20 game against the Broncos, I think they put up like 8 or 9 points because, when you're throwing the ball a lot, you're much more likely to get sacks and force the ball and throw interceptions. So Daniel Jones is known for turnovers and everything. So another one. Not a whole lot of good options, but there's a few for you for sure.
Yeah. So those are kind of who you're looking to target because it's rough out there. So that's part of the reason I saw the line so widely available. I'm like, yes, not sure how that happened. It's too low of this team to be rostered. I need to have them pay attention. So, because let's see, they are currently tied for 11th with the Chiefs. So could be worse.
Yeah. They can get sacks. That's for sure.
Yeah. So
definitely get sacks.
But all right, we're going to get out of here because we want to go watch this game as much as you do. I'm curious to see who shows up tonight because it's, I'm expecting Seattle to win this pretty handily, but who knows? Giants could show up and just absolutely shock everybody. You have anything to plug, Mike? Figured I'd ask, see if there's anything special you want to make sure get people's eyes and ears on.
No, I mean, just continue putting out a lot of content and, in the Discord again, like always there trying to, one of us of the many people in there try and get to your questions as much as possible and, give you a little more detailed answers or specific to your team or league. So, just join us there and look forward to seeing how this week wraps up and on to week 5.
Yeah, and I mean, you've absolutely been killing it with the trade stuff. That's been popping off like crazy in there, and you've been super busy with it, huh?
Yeah,
but
definitely, yeah.
Get a lot of opinions, kind of help you guys figure that stuff out. If you haven't, make sure you like and subscribe. And hey, let's go watch this game. And remember, keep up the nonsense.